If representatives from the, quote, government, along with key representatives from the, quote, Federal Reserve, knocked on your door and asked, would you please hand over all your dollars so we can debase them, what would you do? Our collective timidity, complacency, and indifference speaks volumes. Deliberately, for purposes of theft, our currency has been stolen, debased, and diluted. When will it stop? If history is an indicator, it will take a bloody revolution. But we live in an unprecedented era of knowledge. Now it will require the metaphorical or literal return of Christ. It's going to be at the very hand, the finger of God, that we're going to turn this mess around, my friends. That we're going to extricate ourselves. Yes, I say fight the good fight with all your being. Be willing to die for the cause of other people being free. Okay? But remember, it's not humans doing it. At the end of the day, it's God working through humans. Brave, courageous humans like Martin Luther King Jr. Okay? Men and women like that. That's what's going to make the changes. To understand currency debasement is as simple as understanding the physics of dilution. With all the accumulated innovation and technology since the beginning of time, human engineers and designers still haven't been able to build a car that fixes itself. Yet we are all to believe there is no thought behind building a body that heals itself, that there is no God. And that is absurd. If a seemingly liberal fiscal policy actually turns out to be fiscally conservative, saving tax-wise, tax saving, I wonder how many pseudo-conservatives would oppose it due to their indoctrination. And conversely, I wonder how many pseudo-liberals would oppose what they perceived as too conservative, but was in fact liberal in effect. Yeah, this is maddening to me, this conservative liberal BS, a socialist capitalist BS. When if we just said no to this created division and figured out that we've got one whole hell of a lot more in common than out of common, man, we would have such a better reality. Thinking is one of my all-time favorite pastimes. Seeing that it is easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven, and that, of course, rich is subject to definition because what God calls rich and what we do are two different things. So it's written that to God the things that are highly valued among men are detestable in the sight of God, that it's harder for a rich man to go to heaven than for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle. It seems to me we ought to run, not walk away from riches. Could you imagine if we all did that, treated great wealth like a hot potato and just, hey, here, you have it. No, you take it. And, nobody would hold on to it. It was just going through our fingers. And, hey, all this wealth, could you imagine if it was just flowing through our economies locally and all through the world? Nobody going without, everybody willing to serve each other because it was their instinct to do so. And it was unnatural, abnormal, not to want to serve their fellow human beings. Seeing that it is easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven, rich being subject to definition, logically speaking, shouldn't we all be fleeing being labeled rich? And I kind of repeated myself there, excuse me. An aversion to pain has helped keep me safe, and by extension the general public as well, especially in regard to driving and public safety. Yeah, I don't want to hurt anybody because I know how much I hate pain. So the last thing I want to do is inflict pain on anybody else. Continuing here, I've got a few minutes left. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I lost 40 minutes of pontificating. But, I wanted the theme just to be pointing out how insane this world system is and how we should understand that. We should be empowered with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And the reason I conflate spiritual matters with economic matters is that people will understand the tie-in here and how we're being affected by literally satanic forces. Evil forces are the main factor in what drives the establishment, okay? That our paradigm would be so dramatically and profoundly different from the one that has been shoved down our throats from birth. Okay, this is nonsensical. None of it makes sense. None of it. It's just a big fat rigged game, okay, that we're forced to play. All those that are at the losing end that always get the short end of the stick are just as important as anyone else. All the highly educated people out there and everybody else. Okay, the world's not going to come to a grinding halt because of the death of any of us, the loss of any of us. If any of us fall off the face of the earth tomorrow, things are going to go on about like they have. Okay, we all know that. Okay, and if anybody was so important, things would be getting better, but they're deteriorating. They keep going downhill. And I like to talk about these and things and point them out. I like to point out basic statistical facts that people can say, well, he's right. We can't argue with this guy about the math. Okay, and let's just take something like minimum wage. Okay, and how this has happened to us over a long period of time, whereby the Labor Department has been obviously deliberately remiss in giving adequate cost of living adjustments to minimum wage workers. Why come up with a minimum wage in the first place? Well, it was to prevent unscrupulous employers from taking advantage of the passive in society, the passive workers who will literally work for chicken scratch, chicken feed, for peanuts, and taking advantage of those people. That's why they came up with it. But if they're not going to have checks and balances, if you're not going to have accountability and adjustments, if you got market manipulation that's driving up your cost of living tax, whereby colluding special interest groups work together to raise your cost of living and they benefit, it's theft. Do you understand how that works? So there is absolutely no basis, there is absolutely no justification for not giving minimum wage workers commensurate, equivalent, proportional cost of living adjustments. This has happened over a long period of time. Like the analogy of the frogs in the pot. We were plunked in the pot of water, we the frogs, we the people, at the assassination of JFK. We've been going downhill ever since with currency debasement, currency deworthment, currency dilution. Okay, it's theft. It's a way to steal from the working class, the labor class, those that are crucial, essential to the welfare of society, to your welfare, my welfare, all our welfare. Look around your house at all the stuff that was made in a factory, probably by minimum wage workers. Think of the vast number of jobs out there done by minimum wage workers. Do you understand? These people have no status. They've got nothing but their income. It's absurd that we would marginalize and subjugate these people. It's evil. There's vast wanton evil in our land. And I'm sticking up for these people. I myself haven't worked for minimum wage in decades upon decades. Does that mean I don't care? No, I do. God is watching. I'm on a short leash. I've got to point these things out to people. We need to have this discussion, my friends, and nobody is. That's why I've done this series of videos, because I'm pointing out stuff nobody out there is talking about. Nobody that has a megaphone, that has a platform where they have the influence over the masses. So what I'm depending on is being a drop in the bucket, being one voice in the wilderness, and trying to get people to understand what I'm talking about here and the relevance and the imperative nature of what I'm saying here. This is wrong. It's immoral to allow people to be stolen from. It's your planet too, minimum wage workers. I care about you. You're some of the nicest people in society, the passive people. I hate to see you taken advantage of, robbed, day in and day out, and worse and worse. And then they want to blame you for cost of living inflation. That's it. Maddening to me. Maddening to me. Okay? This is a two-way street. Wages could have gone down if we had true capitalism, which involves supply and demand. Why? Because we find easier and easier ways to produce all the stuff we want and need, to supply all the stuff we want and need. Supply and demand, you get it? So we can have an excess, a superfluity, an abundance of everything. We can have extra houses all over the world. Anything we want, we can have. That's what God wants for us. It's your planet too. You have a right to share in this planet's inherent intrinsic wealth. All of us do. And we should stick up for others. Don't just say, well, I'm satisfied, my life's okay, somebody else's problem. That makes you evil. You're not going to be found worthy and deserving of going to a better place from here. How can you be? Okay, you're a little pissant of a human being. Give a damn, man. Give a damn. That is loving, is caring. Do you understand what I'm talking about here? What would society do without the minimum wage workers? Why don't